protests that turn around and try to do the right thing. The only thing I can tell you is this. It's a quote that I've said throughout my career and have followed. I believe it's something that all officers follow. It says, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." That was wrote in 1770 by Edmund Burke. I think it still holds true today that this is why we're here, and we not forget the terrible price that several of our comrades have paid while trying to do that very thing. Our guest speaker for this year is Representative David McKinley. We are very lucky to have him. Representative McKinley was elected in 2010 and is serving his first term in Congress. He's an engineer by trade and is one of only 2 professional engineers in Congress. While in Congress, Representative McKinley has fought to keep West Virginia jobs by lowering the tax burden and cut the red tape for job creation. He has stood up to the EPA in their war on coal, cut spending, repealing Obamacare, and provided better care for our veterans has also been a top priority for him. On March 20th, McKinley signed a letter and was instrumental in voting into the COPS grant. Now, this is a federal grant which awards state and local agencies approximately $220 million a year across the country for desperate need for manpower and equipment. This bill is passed providing officers with the tools they need. He's a 7th generation West Virginian and lives in Wheeling with his wife Mary. They have 4 children and 6 grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming Congressman David McKinley.
Thank you for the chance to be with you today this on National Police Week, when you think of all the folks across the country that have lost their lives. And last week I was here talking with the firefighters, the state firefighters group. And earlier in the year, we met with groups of people that, with families that we had lost in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was not a job I thought when I ran for this office that we were going to see such tragedy strike us. But we've been to 3 services for our military that have come back from West Virginia. And as Chris said, this is an interesting week, and it's a week that I'm glad it was started. You're absolutely correct. Under Kennedy in 1962, to recognize those that have fallen in service, particularly in the police. But I just think back of all the people that I've known. We were talking earlier, the different TV shows that try to portray what the police is like, but it's often it misrepresents what it's really about the individual when they go to work. Are they going to come home that night? Were those firefighters that I was referring to, 2 of them were good friends of mine. Both lost their life fighting fires. It's a real challenge to all of us, is to find a way to create with the safety so we can have those. And they referred to some of the numbers. That I guess our first police officer was lost in 1792 in New York City. He was a deputy. He was shot. I don't know what it was, what occurred in 1792. But from that point on, we've lost approaching now 20,000 of our policemen across this country. And this year we're going to be recognizing even more, some from this past year. And he's absolutely correct. The number is every 53 hours we lose another man or another woman in service. When we talk about that, it's just it's easy to talk about numbers. We do a lot of that in Washington, about just numbers. But we're not talking about numbers. We're talking about husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, your neighbor next door. Just like in West Virginia, What I found out when I went to Washington was that the coal miners are just a number. No, they're not. They're the people that work every day for us, and we may not necessarily associate a name with them, but they're people that we should care about. They can sit in front of us in church. They may be in a grocery line in front of us. These are men that are crawling on their hands and knees trying to get coal for us. But I think often we get so caught up in the political jargon that we forget about the individuals, the people. Just the individuals and their families. Those TV shows, even though that new one that's out, kind of my wife and I like it, Blue Blood, it has a little bit of the family perspective to it, but it still doesn't get to the undercurrent of what it's like to go out each day and know that you're risking your life for someone that you don't know who it is. It's one thing when I would risk my life for my children or my neighbors, but I don't know what you all do every day, not knowing who you're straight taking a risk for, but you're doing your job. That's so impressive. But last February, we were called on the Hotzenpeller, Derek Hotzenpeller over in Bridgeport. Just 24 years old. The youngest in his class in Marshall School. Trying to serve a warrant and was shot in the neck with a shotgun. He left behind his mother, his fiancée, a brother. His mother had to deal with not only his loss, but just prior to that, she had lost her husband, who had also been a police officer in Bridgeport. But I can tell you it was one of the most memorable occasions to go there. See police officers from every community virtually in West Virginia was there. And also in surrounding states, because they all understand what you do every day. The sacrifices and challenges, and they were there. You couldn't drive out of town that afternoon because the streets were lined and every street was blocked because it was such an outpouring of support. It was just absolutely incredible. And it made me feel good, I'm sure, for his mother and his fiancée to understand that other people recognize what Derek had done in his sacrifice. But the streets were lined with individuals as the car went past. But just like earlier today when you had the bagpipes, they played that there. They had not only one church full, but they had to televise it into a surrounding church. And there wasn't a dry eye anywhere at the end of that memorial service. Because everyone recognized this is an individual that gave his life for his community and his friends. He was trying to do his job. So for all of us in Washington, that we need to understand better that these are individuals, these are families, these are fathers and brothers and sisters and mothers that are involved. And we're going to do the best we can to see that all the safety, all the tools that you need to have, we want to be with you. We were talking about the drug trafficking back at our table back there. And we're seeing that cancer in our society all across this country. It's not just West Virginia. But how we need to have our police officers in the training to be able to slow that so that we have a generation that will lead us into another period of time. There's an awful lot of issues out there. We're going to take it piece by piece. But please just understand, there are those of us out there. Many of you are not from necessarily our district. And so therefore, and you may come from another state. You can't vote for me. But I can vote for you. I think that's one of the most important things. You've got a voice. You've got someone that understands what it's like to be on that line. And I want to be there with you. But I thank you all very much for this opportunity. I've totally gotten away from my remarks when I think back of all the men and women that go to work every day, the 900,000 plus all across this country. We've got to be there for them because they're out there for us. Just like our military are manning the walls overseas. we've got to make sure when they come back they have a job. And we've got to make sure that when you do your job, you'll be able to come home at night because your families are counting on it. So with the sacrifices that we've had, we need to all keep them in our prayer every day. Just like those firemen, when they go out every day, the chances of the risk that they have. Let's just keep in mind all those people that are working for us. You all are on the lead on that. So let me just end with that we're going to be there for you just as much as you've been there for us. So God bless all of you. And let's make sure that we have the tools. Chief, thank you very much.